Welcome back to Conversations with Corey. It's a program where I'll sit down with friends or peers to have an open and honest conversation about a topic that aligns with our DE&I value, stand for equality. Earlier this year, AT&T teamed up with the Duke Energy Foundation to award scholarships to diverse students interested in pursuing a career in wind turbine technology at the High Plains Technology Center in Oklahoma. One of the goals of the program is to focus on and support individuals traditionally underrepresented in the wind workforce, including women and people of color. And with that program underway, today we're talking to our friends at Duke Energy about the work being done to increase representation in STEM and renewable energy careers. And as we kick off Hispanic Heritage Month, we want to spotlight how these efforts are supporting the Latino community. At AT&T, Latinos make up almost 16% of our workforce and 12% of our management positions. While we're proud of these numbers, but we recognize that that's not the case everywhere, especially in the STEM industries. In fact, Latinos are highly underrepresented in STEM, making up only 8% of the workforce. And on top of that, according to a recent study, women and people of color only make up 31% and 25% of the wind energy workforce, respectively. Look, I'm excited to talk today with Joni Davis. She's the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer from Duke Energy. And also, we're going to spend some time with one of our Wind Technology Scholarship recipients, Christopher Tinoco. So welcome, Joni and Christopher. It's great to have you here, and I look forward to our conversation today. So Joni, you've been with Duke Energy for more than 3 decades. So tell us about your current role at Duke Energy.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Corey. I really appreciate you inviting me to join you today. I'm just so in awe of what you're doing, inviting different peers to come in and talk about these important topics. And I've been leading the diversity, equity, and inclusion function since December of 2018. And as a part of that role, I'm responsible for developing and executing strategies to build on a strong culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as strengthening the diversity of our company's recruitment pipeline, our workforce, and our leadership team, and also supporting the communities that the company serves.
Cool. So Christopher, hey man, tell us a little bit about yourself as well before we dive into the conversation.
Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Christopher Tinoco. I go by Chris, or whatever's easier for you, but I'm 20 years old. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. And I just made the move down to Woodward, Oklahoma about 2 months ago or so to attend High Plains Technology Center's program, due in part to a scholarship I received and I was awarded by Duke Energy. But I also had a little bit of interest before that, just because I had some friends that had went through the program and are now working in the field themselves.
Cool. So I appreciate that. So Joni, as the CDIO and the Chief of Staff to the CEO, what are some of your guiding principles when you think about how to, you guys are building a strong culture of D&I and that culture, how it accelerates and supports the recruitment pipeline, your workforce, your leadership team, et cetera?
Corey, the culture, accountability, and support for all of our work around diversity, equity, and inclusion is really driven from the top with our leadership team. And that's really a testament of why our CEO felt it was important for me as the Chief Diversity Officer to be very close to her, not only in proxemics, but also in strategy. In addition to that, we also believe in the business case around DE&I and the power of diversity, that an empowered, diverse workforce, an inclusive workplace makes us a stronger company and provides a competitive advantage for us connecting with this ever-changing needs of our customers and our communities.
Cool, Joni. Let me ask you this. So, and I know you've been in the role now for about 3 years, right? So if you look at the challenges that you all have at Duke Energy, and you compare those to where you see in other companies, other industries, is there anything unique that you all are dealing with that say maybe at AT&T we aren't, or other companies and industries may not be dealing with?
So there are a couple of things happening. We're in the process of our industry really transforming to a more cleaner energy future, which I don't know that is just exactly unique to the energy industry, but it's something that's happening that is really causing us to think very differently about how we approach things. So that's one area. Also, you mentioned STEM at the very top of your introductory comments. So much of the work that we do is based on STEM that we have to have a focus in being sure that we're building capacity there and building awareness around our jobs. So if I have to think of two things that may make the energy industry somewhat unique would be just this huge transformation that we're going through and just how much we're dependent upon STEM in order to really be able to fill our jobs.
And there is definitely some synergies there in terms of the work that we're doing and what you're doing with respect to attracting STEM talent, which is why we're partnering
Yes,
to offer
absolutely.
this scholarship, right? So, Chris, why WIN? What attracted you to this focus?
Just researching and seeing that it's the number one job growth right now. That kind of just drew me into security. Was one aspect that I thought about. But also, like I said, my views on our impact on the climate. I want to be a part of changing the negative impacts we have and having security while doing it. And I felt that wind was the perfect opportunity for that. I'm just glad to be part of that growth, especially as you mentioned earlier, with less than a tenth of the workforce being minorities. Wanting to grow that, it just kind of drives me to work even harder and be part of that change.
First, let me applaud you. I think really smart on your part to pursue a career in an area that you also have a passion for, which also means you'll probably be doggone good at what you're doing. So then this next question is, Joni, for you and Chris. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we're at AT&T, we recognize the importance of supporting Latinos starting their careers, right? And especially in the STEM fields. We've talked a little earlier about the underrepresentation in some of those fields. Chris, specifically for you, about how your heritage, your life's experiences, your background, how does that inform your pursuit of this career?
Well, my father's side of the family is Hispanic, and as you mentioned, I'm from Kansas City. If you've ever been to Kansas City, there's a pretty decent sized Hispanic population. And so I've grown up around that culture my entire life. And my generation, like with my cousins and my siblings, we broke that norm of what our parents couldn't do of going to college or pursuing a STEM career or something like that. But they've always kind of had that hands-on drive in them, that piece of their work ethic. And I think using that hands-on in wind is obviously going to take me a step further. So, where I grew up from, there wasn't a lot of people that had education backgrounds. And I think for people my age, I just see opportunity for any industry itself, but wind specifically, I think it's motivational.
It is. Joni, if from a practitioner standpoint, when you look at the Hispanic population in this country, as the last census showed us, that has grown now in this country from roughly 16% of the population to just shy of 19% of the population now. The fastest growing segment in the United States. The economic dollars, the power there, the purchasing power is immense in the Hispanic community. When you think about all of those data points that I just referenced in the growth, how do you harness that growth in a way that's very positive, not only for your business at Duke Energy, but also very positive for the Hispanic community at large?
Well, that's a great question. I want to give a couple of examples, and then I have a question I want to tease of Chris as well. But you're exactly right. When you look back at the census data, this is a very fast-growing population of our community. And our whole vision is to be able to have a workforce that's representative of the communities that we serve. So with that in mind, as we have opportunities, our objectives are to build awareness about the types of roles that we have so that folks can think about Duke Energy as a viable career, whether it's through an internship or co-op, entry level, all the way leading up through leadership. So we have really a portfolio of programs that's really targeted toward helping us to really move that needle much more prominently in the race ethnicity space, Latinos, Hispanics in particular. But Chris, as you were speaking, I took so much away from that, but I do have just a question that maybe you could lend over to me and Corey from the chair that you sit in of, companies like Duke Energy and AT&T. Are there any additional thoughts that you have maybe from the Hispanic and Latino population, how we can maybe further make investments or further deepen relationships and build education awareness within the Hispanic Latino community? Any thoughts come to mind there?
Well, I think that's actually a great question. When you're talking about investing in communities and community outreach, I really think that the best way to grow a community, especially communities with people of color that are usually lower income, you mentioned education. Letting them know, what jobs are out there, what to go to school for, how much these jobs pay, what they can provide long term, and providing this to people at a young age, so they can get an idea of where to pursue a career, only lets them, broaden their spectrum as to what they want to do when they, get older. And I think that's where a lot of communities lack, growth.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, it is. And Joni, Chris, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to share your stories, your perspectives. Chris, I think what you shared about what motivated you to pursue this career path and how you got into it is an inspiration not only for folks who are beginning their careers, but also for those of us, and this is the case for many of us at AT&T, where we have opportunities now to sort of rethink the second half of our career or whether or not we want to change direction or paths in our current career. And then Joni, what you shared in terms of being a good partner for us as companies as we try and move the needle forward in these underserved communities has been very, very helpful. I will always be excited to talk firsthand with the future experts who are benefiting from AT&T and Duke Energy's commitment to making STEM careers more accessible for everyone. Here is to a sustainable future with representation for everyone in STEM. And again, thanks to all of you for watching and tuning in.